Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, streaming another live edition of the LockerGnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short, out to you. If you're tuned in live, it's another bonus that the patrons get, the supernomies. Everybody else gets it a day later, it's easy for you to watch either way. You can wait. I mean, I'd say that you could wait for anything that I might say. It's not a big deal, but it's just another bonus, right? Another bonus on top of another bonus on top of another bonus that I'm trying to offer all the people who have taken the extra step to support me in all the ways that they've been able to support me as one of the active patrons, aka the Supernomies. The first thing I wanted to talk about was what I plan on talking about today, and that is the cavalcade of announcements from Redmond. I was not there on site necessarily. I watched remotely, or at least part of the broadcast. I guess a lot of people had some issues with the live video stream that Microsoft had produced. I had some issues as well. But I think the TLDR version, my take on what Microsoft talked about, pretty much stem to stern, I'm excited. And that's not something that I was expecting to say, but I think Microsoft has piqued my interest. I have not yet tried Windows 10. They will be releasing a new build to insiders within about a week's time. And at that time, I'll try it for the first time on one of my Surface Pro 3s. See, right there. My review, by the way, of the Surface Pro 3 is going to be posted as a CPU episode in the classic YouTube channel, which I recorded that a few weeks ago. That was streamed live behind the scenes for the patrons, so they already know kind of what's coming down the pike there. Not the edited version. I don't think it's been done yet, but that will be posted to the classic YouTube channel, which is going to be rebooting here as we move the Pirillo Vlogs into their own channel. So I plan on looking at Windows 10 and also doing kind of what I did with my dad when Windows 8 was released as a consumer preview. I knew he was going to have issues with it. I do not think my dad is going to have issues with Windows 10. I'm just going to, that's a spoiler alert. And I'll get into that in just a few moments. First, I wanted to make sure everybody knew about the top tech hashtag that we've been promoting on a platform called Ocho, which you can download for free on iOS. An Android version, I guess, is going to be available soon. So here's the idea. As I pull this up on my phone here to show you, and I know the brightness is not exactly perfect here, we've had a few people submit their entries with a top tech hashtag. And what's going to happen here at the end of the campaign is I'm going to take some of these videos, the ones that were produced really, really well, and include them in one video roundup. Oh, is that? Oh, I know Andy CD Green is in here. That wasn't Andy. That was somebody else in our community here. There's Andy's in here somewhere. His face was in there. I know I saw his face. So many faces. It's awesome to see you on the other side. Sorry, now I'm doing the antisocial thing and staring into my phone instead of talking to you. There's Andy CD Green, and he's posted a video here. Close to about 20 submissions. So Ocho is a platform that I'd like to use on a regular basis. Like if this first one works, where the campaign is you go to my video, which I'll link in the video description for you here, with the Ocho app, you hit reply, post your video response. Then what I'm going to do is compile them all into a single video, like the top tech of 2014. What I'd love to do is something like that on not just a monthly basis, but a weekly basis, where I throw out a topic like, what are your thoughts on Windows 10? I think it's going to be a winner. Like, that would be my Ocho. And then you would give a chance to reply, like, and say, my name's, Joe Dokes, and I think Windows 10 is not going to do well because the start menu's too big, or something like that. And then what I'd have is effectively a unique video that included me and that absolutely included you, something completely unique, fueled by Ocho. So this is really a test. And I'm hoping a lot of people will be able to showcase their favorite tech, their top tech for the year 2014. It's easy to do. And so I really want you to try that, because I think it'd be neat to have a video like that every week. And every week we'd have a different kind of topic, a geeky topic in general. Wouldn't necessarily always be about tech, because, tech, I mentioned in a reply to somebody else today, I think tech is about 5% of my life. In terms of my interest in technology, 5% of my life. I'd say 5% is tech, 5% Star Wars, 5% Lego stuff, 5% general toys, 5% being a father, 5%, being a guy. So I'm an amalgamation of all these interest points. So it's interesting when I have to break it down like that, but it just should provide a little bit of context. Text. Tech is not the only thing that I enjoy or appreciate in life. Text is, I enjoy writing. I enjoy reading. I read an interesting theory. It's called ring theory, that I guess is something that's done in films. It very rarely pulled off. And the website, I tweeted it last night. I think it'd be a great documentary. Now I can't remember the actual URL, like Star Wars Ring Theory or something. If you Google Star Wars Ring Theory or Bing it, you'll pull it up. Star Wars Ring Theory. And I got as far as like the third page. It's this huge essay that goes into detail and explains really past the point of not liking something just to get to the heart of the matter and actually potentially giving me a newfound appreciation for what Lucas did with the prequels. The logic is sound, and I'm going to be reading it at length, if only to better digest it and really understand if this was even possible. And if so, I mean, I think it could be said that Lucas did a better job with the prequels than we had previously experienced or understood without understanding the perspective from a ring theory. A fascinating read. Okay, so anyway, that came from me blurping text. Oh well. So yes, everything I tweeted this morning was accurate in relation to Windows 10. I didn't flood people out or anything. But one of the things I said was that Windows 10 on the Surface, and not to be confused with the Surface, and from a distance, because I have not used Windows 10, it looked to be more responsive or fluid than OS 10. And as soon as I tweeted that with the hashtag Windows 10, Brendan LeBlanc, who I've known for a long time, a long time. I think Vista days is when we met. I think he works with Microsoft now and is a part of their program where they blog and do all sorts of good things for the community. Although Terry Myerson is the one who posted the next generation of Windows 10, on the Microsoft, one of the Microsoft blogs this morning. He said, "Are you serious?" I think he thought it was sarcastic, and it wasn't. I was being dead serious. It looks very responsive. Now, having not used it, I can't speak about the experience, but Microsoft has really doubled down, I think, on fluidity in a way that I think Apple's really dropped the ball. And this is going to come to a surprise. You're going to be surprised when you hear this, especially if you haven't been listening to me over an extended period of time. I think Apple's kind of lost that game in terms of performance, in terms of quality control. Yosemite is a far cry from an optimized OS on modern hardware, to the point where I don't know if I felt that anything was snappier or better moving from a 6-year-old Mac Pro to the latest Gen iMac. It was an upgrade, but just the optimizations weren't there. Apple just hasn't optimized UI in terms of performance on the desktop. At least they haven't tweaked it in the longest time. And it is painfully obvious in certain applications, resizing Windows, yes, this whole, the idea of jitteriness and jumpiness should not exist in today's computers. And Apple's got some polishing to do. So I said that with all honesty. It looks polished. Windows 10, from what I saw with the live captures of everything, it looks not cluttered. It looks clean, but I'm not sure if I would say it's as beautiful as Microsoft wants it to be. It is. I like the flat appearance, and I think it needs to be further refined. But like they demonstrated the calendar app, and they said, "Look how clean and responsive. It's beautiful." I'm like, "That's beautiful." Like the calendar app was littered with colors and appointments. I'm like, if that was my calendar, man, I wouldn't know what to do. Like I keep a busy calendar, but it looked cluttered to me. So, but it looked responsive as well. With as much that was going on the screen, it was still very responsive, and it looked like a clean experience outright. The start menu, some quipped, looked really busy. It's like they took the Windows 8 start screen experience and pushed it into the classic start menu paradigm. And I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think that could work. Not having used it, though, I can't speak to it. I really am excited. I am. When I say that, it's genuine. I am excited to try Windows 10 on a Microsoft PC, the Surface Pro 3, which, again, I just reviewed. That'll be posted in the other channel. So a lot of things were announced by Microsoft, and I'm likely going to miss a few. Of course, it was like a 2.5-hour broadcast. But the biggest bit of news in relation to Windows 10, as it's coming down the pike, is they're making it a free upgrade. Now that's good news. It genuinely is, and I'm glad to see Microsoft making that decision. But deeper than that, they're making it a free upgrade, at least for a year, from Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 users. Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 users. I think it's a genius move. Because I would say, just looking at it, and thinking, okay, well, generally speaking, Windows 8 is a very optimized in terms of speed on lower spec hardware. It's good, and you would be able to run, I think, Windows 8 on a Windows 7 PC and probably feel like it was more responsive than it was with Windows 7. Uh, and I think they've taken that the same or walking down that same path with Windows 10. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't say we're making it a free upgrade for Windows 7 users all the way up. Although I do wonder why they're not saying that for Windows Vista users, and maybe there's just not a lot of them, certainly in relation to Windows XP or Windows 7 users. But making it a free upgrade, at least for the first year, I think is huge. I think it's going to help their marketing efforts. I think it's going to help engagement. I think it's potentially going to give people an option to kind of feel where Microsoft's headed, because Windows 10 looks different from Windows 7 radically. I wouldn't say it looks any different from Windows 8. It's definitely a step up. But this is big news. I wouldn't say big news in the realm of OS is being free. Well, I'm sure people who use Linux, it's open source for years, blah, blah. And then, of course, OS 10 fanatics, Apple's made it free for a few years, blah, blah, blah. You know what? The bottom line, who cares? If Microsoft's making it free, hey, that's awesome, because it brings more people from the past into the present. So I'd like to see Microsoft continue that trend with operating system updates, and then figure out how to generate revenue in some other way. I think the value of an operating system is not what it used to be. Certainly back when, sorry if I bumped the mic there. I grabbed my Slinky, my very low-tech toy here. It goes downstairs alone or in pairs, does not need a firmware update ever. All operating system updates, well, they don't exist because it's a Slinky. Yeah, I think it was a smart move. It was a good move, and I think that Microsoft can make money in another way, and they need to figure that out, because like my dad, he says, oh yeah, Microsoft, I guess, is doing a cloud thing now. He said a cloud thing now. Of course, they've had Azure for years, and OneDrive, at least if you're listening to me, we probably already know about. But it's just not marketed heavily, or hasn't necessarily taken, a center place in terms of a Windows experience, beyond Windows 8.1 maybe. It's integral. It's definitely a deeper part of what Microsoft's trying to provide in Windows. And it is exciting because it looks different. It looks nice. It looks easy. It looks clean, or potentially clean. I still question how they're going to be able to pull it off, how the general experience is going to work. But that is just, I think, Windows 10, if the consumer preview, if I latch onto it, my plan is to do a few videos around the Windows 10 consumer preview, whichever one they say is this is the one that we intend on shipping. I want to do videos around that because, number one, it's different. Number two, it is exciting. And number three, because I think it's worth talking about. Microsoft is doing things that you would want Microsoft to do. You'd want any company to do, whether or not you liked Microsoft Windows at all. This seems to be, from a distance, a polishing of features, so a better implementation. Not really doing too many things that seem brand new, like a photo management tool in Windows 10. We've seen that through a variety of apps and from a variety of platforms, but they're definitely doing things that are very interesting. Now, does that mean that suddenly I'm going to say, forget Macs, forget OS 10? No, not at all. I appreciate what Microsoft's doing, and it is a possibility. I leave that door wide open. I have the ability to change my mind. I'm a human being. I don't want to be locked into a certain mindset for the rest of my life. That would be horrific. They're going to start delivering Windows as a service, though, or at least that's the intention, and it begins with Windows 10. So it's beginning to get more exciting, and Microsoft is beginning not to exactly act like Apple, because Apple's this kind of player. It's a vertical player. Microsoft's a horizontal player. They can't, act exactly like Apple. But in terms of bringing people tighter or closer into their ecosystem and their services, I think Microsoft's doing a better job at creating a compelling alternative to what Apple has been creating. I think they've still got a long way to go in terms of Windows 10 on the phone, which, by the way, will be a free update for Windows Phone 8.1 users. So the idea is it's Windows 10 everywhere, like, a single experience that is optimized for your modality, which is kind of what they should have done with Windows 8, but lesson learned. And I'm glad to see them turning that ship around now. I don't think they could have afforded to wait too much longer. I'm glad they recognized their mistakes with Windows 8. I I couldn't even say something like no hard feelings. I made the position that I made when I saw Windows 8, and I said what I said. Some people didn't like what I said, but suffice to say, Microsoft, at this point, they're not listening to me, of course, and I don't expect them to, but I think I agree with the decision that they're making. Again, at a distance, not having any practical hands-on experience with the things they announced today and the things that they are talking about. So the next thing that kind of got my interest with Microsoft's announcements today, something that I could imagine them porting to other platforms, Cortana. Of course, that's their value add, right? It's, Google's got their own thing, Apple's got their own thing, Microsoft needs its own thing. I don't know if Cortana is necessarily the value add for people to latch on to a Windows phone or a Windows PC, but in seeing the demonstrations, I could see how it could be used in places. I've long wanted to see something like Siri on the OS 10. So Cortana looks to be integrated into the Windows 10 experience across the board. And that's something that it will kind of not really make people see the PC in a different way, but it brings more relevance to the classic PC paradigm. Because now we're accustomed to picking up our smartphone, talking to it, and then having something happen. With PCs, it's always a third-party add-on. It kind of works halfway. It may not work more often than not. But now within Windows 10, across the range of experiences, you'll have Cortana. And so I think that was also something that would be very nice to use, especially if it was integrated with all your favorite services on the desktop or certainly on a mobile device. So I think it was one of those things that will make it a compelling upgrade and again bring relevance back to the PC as a usable platform that's fun, simple, accessible, and really something that we would have expected years ago, certainly from Microsoft or beyond. They're going to be taking Windows 10 or keeping Windows 10, running on smartphones and tablets. I don't know. This might be how this might be Windows not last shot, but Microsoft's last shot at having Windows on a smartphone. Is it possible to happen? Yes. The question is how many of those devices are going to sell. Tablets, there's a greater possibility of the Windows sticking around. Smartphones, I don't know. That seems like it's been an uphill battle for quite some time. And I don't know if I see that trend changing anytime soon. I think people, for the moment, are happy with iPhones and Apple's experience. Granted, remember I talk about it's not just the hardware; it's everything around the hardware as well. Android, people have been happy with that, or happy enough, with what Android has provided them, and the apps available on Android, and Microsoft is kind of like that distant third party in terms of app and developer support at this point. So, if Windows 10 does not take off on smartphones, I'd question its validity in the future. They're trying, and I think they're doing a better job at it, but unfortunately, I still think it was introduced too late. Windows 10 is what we should have seen before the iPhone launched. Then we'd be talking, but we're not talking that. We're talking years later, almost a decade later, and it's good. I'm not slagging the validity of the platform. The issue is that there are two really good players in the marketplace already. iOS is working well enough, and Android as a platform is working well enough. And it doesn't have the cruft of Windows. I think the past of Windows is shackling the promise of Windows because it still has the brand Windows associated with it and the dangers that come with Windows. Installing a program and having it wreak havoc on your system. That's a prime danger for any operating system, really, but especially with Windows. I don't know if my dad would be as willing to install new software on Windows, if only because of his history with Windows. Other people, not so much. I think, people who are more intimately familiar with how a PC might work, certainly software and hardware together on a platform like Windows, would be more inclined to install new software. But, even through an App Store experience, there's still a question mark on how well Windows is going to run because we've had bad experiences with Windows in the past. once you have a bad experience, it's kind of difficult to get that taste out of your mouth, especially when that bad experience pops up now and again. So I wasn't really sure what to think about Project Spartan. Fun name. Their replacement for Internet Explorer, I guess the next iteration of their web browser. I wasn't sure what to think until I saw one demo in particular that I was like, what? What? Whoa. This is something that I could see Google Chrome copying, potentially Apple copying within Safari. Cortana, when you visit a web page that is associated with a business, like a restaurant or something, what would happen is Cortana could pull up information, contextual information based on that URL, that known associated URL, that web page, and show you information that you're looking for, directions, ratings, potentially menu, hours. And that was pretty slick. I was like, what? That's kind of neat. That's neat. And it's gee whiz. Would I use it all the time? No, but have you ever gone to a website and you knew you were looking for like the hours of a business? How long are they going to be open? Are they open right now? If you've ever gone to a website and looked for that information, you know the frustration. Well, that's just one example of where Cortana can basically bridge the gap. Kind of neat how I saw that demo being done, at least on the desktop when they were demoing it. Office Universal Apps on Windows 10, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Outlook. I'm interested in this, but more so the web versions of the Office suite probably are more interesting for me, given that I do access the web from a variety of devices, a variety of platforms, and I do so just to get a variety of experiences. But it is very nice to see Microsoft still inching forward with that. I'm not sure if Office is going to be the juggernaut that it was. I mean, they've got compatibility that they're dealing with Enterprise, but typically speaking, if someone sends me an attachment, I ask them, like, could you upload this to a web-based reader or what have you? I have my own safety to consider. Not to mention attachments, really. I guess we still have to deal with attachments. I was looking down at my dog and lamenting, but Pixie's asleep. I hope you're not, because I'm wanting to talk, through what I perceived as some of the bigger announcements in relation to what Microsoft announced. Xbox Live. Now this is something that would probably interest you if you were in if you were into gaming at all, PC gaming. If you like games for Windows or whatever they're calling it today, and you might have an Xbox, maybe not. It's now looking like a more singular experience. You can interact with players if they're on Xbox and you're on the PC, a Windows PC with Windows 10. You can interact with each other no matter which platform you're playing on. So it's like Windows 10 everywhere. Genius. That is so incredibly long overdue. Really, I mean, beyond the nice things of being able to manage, friends and connections with your Xbox friends on your PC, it's just a seamless experience across the board. And I think that was pretty neat to see that demonstrated in real time on stage, and it looked like it was the demo the way it was intended on running. That again was very smart for Microsoft to do, because for Microsoft, they need to pull you into their ecosystem. So they got Xbox. Well, you got Xbox across that room, and then you have to buy a new computer. You're going to buy a Mac or a PC. Well, if you buy a Windows PC, there's a chance that you're going to have better integration with the Xbox because of the way Windows 10 works. You can run Windows 10 in Boot Camp on, or at least you should be able to run Windows 10 in Boot Camp on a Mac, or certainly in a virtualization software like Parallels. But some people would be inclined to go with a straight up PC experience outright, not just buy a Mac and use it as a PC. Although I think someone took a screenshot and said, boy, there are a lot of Macs in this audience for Windows 10. There were quite a few Macs in the audience, which was, I think, also pretty telling. But you can run Windows on OS, not on OS 10, unless you're running it through virtualization software. But this continuum mode, I think, is a huge value, and I'd like to see more of that. I really genuinely would. Pretty smart. And that would probably steer me more towards getting an Xbox, if I were to get one, than a PS4. Just saying, outright, because the possibility of me using Windows for something on, let's say, the Surface, are pretty high. So to have that integration, I think, is pretty smart as well. Next up, they talked about something that seemed to be out of the future, And my excitement for this is a bit attenuated because I remember the first time I ever saw the video of like an artist's conception of Longhorn. This is what Windows Vista was supposed to be, or the dream of what it could have been. And of course, we all know that Vista was nowhere near the promise of Longhorn. If you want an idea, do a search. I'm sure someone's produced the video or uploaded the video. Longhorn preview or Longhorn video preview or something like that. And you'll see what they were promising, what we were expecting to see as a pretty massive upgrade from Windows XP. Like it was going to be awesome. I mean, it really genuinely was. Not just the features, but kind of a UI polishing, and it made a lot of sense at the time. So they talked about something called HoloLens, and initially they were demoing it like in an like animation style. It wasn't real. It was obviously not a product demo. They had like a real world scenario where this person wearing, I'd say, it wasn't gaudy headgear. It's a little large, but not too bulky. I think it's about the size where it would need to be. It definitely puts Google Glass to shame. I can tell you that much right now. But it's not a product like Google Glass at all. So I was watching the animation saying, okay, that's cool. You can manipulate objects. You can, see, a screen on the wall just by looking up there with this headgear on. I had no idea how heavy it would be if you suffer from fatigue, not just with your eyes, but, how tired would you get by using your arm like this, constantly move things around, unless you were, working out. It'd be a great way to work out, I'd imagine. So Windows as a hologram sounds interesting. Building, and they had as an example in the animation at least, Minecraft. Kind of neat. It really genuinely was neat. But as someone who has had the promise of virtual reality and augmented reality in front of me, and I see it, but I still wonder, is that really going to work? Or is it going to work as well? It looks too polished in an animation because it's an artist's rendering of what this is or what it could be. What you got to keep in mind is, when you see those types of videos, that isn't the actual product being used. It's a concept. That's all it is. It's a concept. And so then, when they brought someone on stage to better demonstrate it in real time, that's when they had my attention. Because while it wasn't perfect, I would say that compared to the animation or the concept video that we watched, compared to the actual demo, I'd say they're 50% there, which is better than 0. So the reason why I say that is because you can see like how there were some gestures that had to be regestured, some clunkiness and jumpiness in UI, and for even you watching someone else use it wasn't exactly like it is in the movies. It's like shoot, boom, boom, but in reality, it's more like, and like no, that's what I want. But the nice thing is it'll track your eye movement as well. So it looks cool. It absolutely looks cool. I will tell you this. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I was interested in trying the Surface. Microsoft HoloLens, from what I saw, is the first Microsoft product in the longest time that I've wanted to have. Can you believe that? I didn't say that about the Xbox. The Surface I was interested in, if only to see what Microsoft's take on the PC was. But even in that brief demo, it's not available yet. It'll be available in the Windows 10 release timeframe. But it looked usable enough that with, the right application could unlock the experience. And I'm interested. I'm fascinated. It captured my attention. It looked cool. Just like Google Glass. It looked cool. But it looked like it would have been too much for too little. Google Glass, I think, the way Microsoft's approaching HoloLens, it's basically they didn't necessarily call it a PC, but it has everything you need in the headgear. You don't need to be connected to anything else. You've got the CPU, GPU, and then something they call the HPU, which for the holographic processing unit. So it's able to calculate all these things at the same time. So I'd imagine it would be fluid. But again, never having seen one or used one, I can't speak to the experience. I don't know how well it'll work for someone like me, because I wear prescription lenses. But it really does look exciting. And so, hats off to Microsoft for doing that and for doing the demo on stage the way they did. Because even though it was 50% of what we saw in the concept teasers in the presentation, it was 50% enough to pique my interest. And anybody who would see that and wonder, well, really, how well is it going to work? They demoed it on stage. And you got to know that it isn't going to be perfect, but it looked it looked like they're on the right track, and I hope that it is reasonable in cost, because it looks interesting. This is the thing, the HoloLens. I sigh because this is very deep for me. The HoloLens, and seeing that, makes Apple look boring. Then they announced something that's probably more interesting for business, so I don't want to go too deeply into that. The Surface Hub, which is like a TV, a Microsoft TV that has Windows 10 integrated. So instead of getting a whiteboard and connecting and doing presentations that way, it's in the TV. It's basically an all-in-one type of system, which is only really going to be geared towards people who are in it for the business. Skype integration, PowerPoint integration. Surface Hub seems like it would potentially work for people who wanted to upgrade to a smarter whiteboard, who are already invested in Microsoft infrastructure and licenses. It looked neat. I don't know if the Surface Hub would be as useful at home at this point, because I think a smartphone is probably closer to what we might need at home, because we're always moving around. We're around the house. We've got this on us. We can't necessarily go to a single PC to do something. We want to talk to the PC that's in our hands, a very personal computer, a smartphone. So, of course, they announced other things and talked about other things, but I just wanted to let you know that pretty much everything Microsoft said and everything that I saw demoed looked good. It looked solid. It looked like they're going the right direction with unification. Can't say that I'm completely sold on the UI. It's a clean UI. It's a responsive UI. But there are certain things that I'm like, oh, that just looks kind of janky. It looks not great, but I can see how it works. But I think genuinely and generally speaking, they've got some good stuff coming down the pike, and that's not something that I've said about Microsoft in a long time. I'm excited for Windows 10. I'm excited to see more. I want to use HoloLens. I want to see how well their experience works across all their devices. I want to see how well they embrace cross-platform, not just with OS 10 potentially. Or yeah, they are going to be releasing a version of Office for OS 10, but iOS and Android as well, because I think that is more than anything going to keep people wanting to buy a PC or anything that Microsoft might have their fingers in. So I've got a few other bits of stuff that I wanted to share with you today, but I think I've talked enough, and I wanted to kind of keep this TLDR as focused on Microsoft and their announcements today as I could. So I'm going to go ahead and forestall the other stuff, not to be confused with Scott Forstall, for tomorrow and TLDR, and so you can stay tuned for that, because we're doing this pretty much every day live. Now I've got to wrap this up and head off to our hangout, which we do every weekday with the patrons, aka the Supernomies. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had a good time, as good a time as I did watching that Windows presentation, and if you didn't, you probably owe it to yourself to watch it as well. I may start doing more Microsoft stuff again, because it was pretty cool. It really genuinely was. I expect to do a lot of that stuff within the CPU series of videos, because as I said, tech is really 5% of my life, and so it's difficult to have a channel that is dedicated to 5% of your life. My life is 100%, but I've got various components and interest points throughout my life. So expect to hear more about that in not just future CPU episodes when I have the product hands-on, but also in future TLDR videos, which are more. This channel is going to be more for long-form geeky content, this type of video, as well as the live hangouts that we do for everybody, the Q&A with you and me, because I'm just going to stream those live onto the interwebs, and that way we don't have to edit them. You can get them pretty quickly, and then I can cover a variety of topics and continue to answer your questions. I enjoy doing that, probably more than just about most things that I do. So thank you. Again, I love you. I appreciate you. But at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.